let's see what happens if I press a button. Hello and welcome to the third class and last class of the DIY MIDI Controller Workshop. So far you learned everything you need to know about the Arduino, how to build a circuit, breadboard, potentiometers, buttons, and today we're going to see the code, the kind of like the mystery part, which I'm going to make it really easy for you. You're going to upload the code to the Arduino, learn what you need to do, and adapt to your own needs so you can have your first MIDI controller making sound today. Okay, so let's get started. So for this class, we're going to need a couple of software. So the first thing I want you to do is come into the Arduino website, come into software, downloads, and then download the version for your OS. For me, it's going to be Mac OS, okay? So after you downloaded and you installed, you can open your Arduino IDE, which is the Integrated Development Environment, and you're going to be welcomed to a blank, let's say, sketch. So a few things we need to do here. First, we need to choose the board that we are going to use. So go to Tools, go to Board, and choose Arduino Uno. Here you have the list of the boards you can choose, so never forget to choose the right board. Second thing, we need to choose the USB port that our Arduino is connected. In this case is the USB modem. On Windows, I think you're gonna have COM4 or any other number, so choose that. So now we need to download the code that we're going to use for our MIDI controller. So go to our GitHub page, links below, and then you can clone and download. After you downloaded the folder, go to code and go to the language. If you speak English, use this one. If you speak Portuguese, use this one. They are the same thing, but they have comments in different languages. So let's take a look in this code. If you take a look first, it might be a little bit overwhelming. It's a code that I actually took years to make and make it like better and better. And here I'm giving you for free, okay? And don't worry, I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do in easy steps so you can adapt for your project, okay? So let's take a look at this. So made by me. And this sketch reads the Arduino's digital and analog ports and send MIDI notes and MIDI control change. If you're using for anything that's not for personal use, don't forget to give credit. I appreciate that. And something important, just change the value that has a comment like that. So first of all, what is a comment in an Arduino code? Every time you have double slash, you have a comment, which means that this doesn't do anything in the code. It's just a comment. You can see that always when you have the double slash, it's in gray. So everything that's gray, it's a comment and has this double slash. So every time I have a comment with a star, it means that you can change the value. If there's a comment without a star, please don't change anything in that line, okay? So first thing, choosing your board. Here you can choose the type of board you're going to use with your MIDI controller. You can use the Arduino Uno, Mega, Nano, or you can use Micro, Pro Micro, Leonardo, or you can use a Tinsy, or you can just use your Arduino to debug, which means if you just want to see in the serial monitor that we're going to talk about what's happening, you can also choose this and doesn't really matter which board you are using. So let's see what we have here. Oh, there's a star, so it means that we can change that. So put here the microcontroller you are using, like in the lines above, followed by 1, like ATmega 328, 1, debug 1, etc. So here is the microcontroller, is not the board, okay? So for example, the Arduino Uno, the Mega and the Nano has the ATmega 328 microcontroller. The Arduino Micro, Pro Micro and Leonardo have the ATmega 32U4. And if you have a Teensy, you can just put Teensy. And if you want to debug, which if you just want to read the message that they are sending, you can put debug. So we're going to start with debug. It's good to do debug in the beginning so you can see if you did your circuit right. If you did your circuit right, you're going to have the right message in the serial monitor, but we're going to get there in a second. Let's move forward. Okay, next that we have is libraries, and we need to do something special here, which is adding the MIDI library. So we need to install 2 MIDI libraries, or 1 depending on which board you want. So for the Arduino Uno, Mega and Nano, or the Arduinos that have the ATmega328, you need to install the MIDI library, the MIDI.h. And if you're using the Micro, Pro Micro, or Leonardo, or an Arduino with the ATmega32U4, you need to install the MIDI USB. So let's go to Sketch, include library, manage libraries, then type MIDI. So the MIDI USB by Gary Grewal is the MIDI USB for the Arduino Micro and Pro Micro. You can install here if you don't have it. And the one for the Arduino Uno, we have to scroll down and install the MIDI library by 47 Effects. So you click it and install it. Since I already have it, I can't install it anymore. So that's what you need to do for the libraries. Next is where you're going to configure the buttons of your MIDI controller. First, here, see that you have a star. You need to put the number of buttons here, okay? So total number of buttons, since we have 3, you just change this number. If you have 2, just put 2. If you have 3, put 3. Then next we have a star here. So pins of each button connected straight to the Arduino. So here you have to put the pins of the buttons you are using. So we are connecting to the pins 2, 3, and 4. So this is going to send a chromatic scale. So for example, C, C sharp, and D. So that's the order of the scale you want. If you want to change the order of the buttons, right, you can change them here, right? So next is uncomment if you are using pin 13, the pin with LED, or comment the line if not using. So I don't want to get into details here, but the pin 13 of the Arduino has a built-in LED, so you need to change some things here in the code to use it. So if you are using the pin 13, you uncomment that, which means you do that. If you're not using pin 13, you comment. So if you are, next thing you need to do is put the index of the pin 13 of the button pin array if you are using. If not, comment. Explaining that, what you need to put here is the number of the index in this array that you are using. Translating, this is something that you'll be really familiar if you do my making music with Arduino. I explain everything, every detail on how I got to this code, but an index of an array is that the first number, so this is an array, it's a list. So the first number has index 0, second number has index 1, 2, 3, and so on. So you're going to put, for example, the pin 13 here, right? You are using pin 13. So, okay, I'm using pin 13, so I am uncommenting this, and now I need to put the index of this pin. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So I would put 3 here, okay? So depending on the position of the pin in this array, in this list, you're going to put the index of this pin here. But since we are not using pin 13, I am going to comment this, and this number will not matter, right? So let's go to the next things we actually need to change. Potentiometers. So here's pretty similar. Total number of pots, if it's slide or rotary, any type of potentiometer. So we just have 2. And next, pins of each pot connected straight to the Arduino. And here see that we actually put an A So it's A1, A0, A2. So the Arduino has from A0 to A5. We have 6 analog pins. So different from the digital pins, now we need to put an A for the analog pins. So here I'm changing the order from A1 to A0, but it depends on the order that you want to send MIDI control change. So the potentiometers will send MIDI control change. Okay, so next thing we can change, so that's the basics. We actually don't need to change anything else. Let's see what happens since we have the debug. So we should see in the serial monitor, which I'm going to show you, the messages that are coming from our components. So now we need to upload the code to the Arduino. So for doing that, we need to do 2 steps. The first step is not necessary, but it's nice that we need to verify the code. So if the code doesn't have any error, it's going to show you done compiling. If it has errors, it's going to show you which errors you have and where they are. So now we can upload the code, clicking here in upload. Now we have the serial monitor. The serial monitor will show you the message that's coming from the serial port of the Arduino. So serial is a protocol. So the Arduino, instead of sending MIDI protocol, it's sending serial protocol, and we can read here in this monitor. So let's see what happens if I press the buttons. Button 0 on and off. Button 1 on and off. 2 on and off. And my potentiometers. My potentiometer 0 is sending from 0 to 127. And then potentiometer 1. And if we add more, they're just going to show up in order from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So this means that everything is working fine. So now we need to make it a MIDI controller. So remember that the Arduino sends serial protocol, and our DOS will not understand serial, it only understands MIDI. So we need to convert serial to MIDI. So that's why we need a piece of software called Hairless MIDI. So it converts serial protocol to MIDI. So you come to this link and download. So now we open the Hairless MIDI, which looks like this. First thing we do is selecting the USB port, and then we turn this on. Now if I press a button, you can see that I'm sending note 36, 37, and 38. If we come back to our code, and if we go to the lines here, 79, by the way, if we go to preferences, you can put here display line numbers. So if we go to this line, you can choose the first note that's going to send. Remember, that's going to send a chromatic scale. I chose the note 36, and also the first MIDI control change that's going to send. I chose MIDI CC1, and you can also change the MIDI channel here. So see that first note is 36, in channel 1, 37, and 38. And here is sending control change 1 and control change 2. But okay, now we need another thing. For us to send MIDI from one device to another device, or from one application, which is Hairless, to another application like Ableton Live, we need a virtual MIDI port. On Mac, you have this built-in, so go to Finder, go to Go, Utilities, Audio MIDI Setup, make sure you are seeing the MIDI Studio, and click in Yacht Driver, and make sure that device is online. And you need to have at least one port. If you have MIDI in and out, which you don't have right now, you can make 2, but right now you just need one MIDI port, and then you can close and don't worry about it anymore. So in Hairless, now in MIDI out, choose one of your MIDI port. So now you can see that you have the Yak driver here, right? So now if we go to Ableton Live, if we go to Preferences, if you go to MIDI, you will see in Input the Yak driver or Yak Bus 1. You can actually change the name. So in Input, select Track and Remote. The difference between Track and Remote is that Track you can actually play notes like a keyboard, and Remote you can actually map things like map volumes or map trigger clips and etc. So let's close this. I have a drum kit selected here. You can see that in MIDI from you have the options, you have Yak driver. I'm receiving from all of them. So let's see what happens if I press a button. And we have a MIDI controller right now, which is super amazing. So let's see what happens. How can we just map, for example, clips? So I have these clips here. Since I have remote there, if I click in MIDI and press here, I can now map different clips with different buttons. And I can actually add, for example, an effect and actually map the effects with my knobs. And guys, that's a pretty simple process. And if you have Windows, you might be asking, how can you do in Windows? So the process is pretty similar. You're going to do everything in the same way with Hairless and with the Arduino IDE. But instead of using the Yak driver as a MIDI port, a MIDI virtual port, you're going to use the Loop B. So you need to install another software. I'm going to leave the link to. And then you come here, install the Loop B. And you just have to install it and then select it as the MIDI port in Ableton and on Hairless, right? It's gonna be here in MIDI out, and in here in the Ableton Live, it's gonna be here in Input. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. It was pretty technical and might be something really new for you, which is building a MIDI controller, but see that is totally doable and anybody can do it. I hope you enjoyed this course. It was really nice to put all of this together. This is really years of work condensed in just 3 classes, so you can have your first prototype, which is the first thing, the baby for the next thing you will build. So this is a pretty simple MIDI controller, although it can be really amazing and do lots of stuff. Maybe you want to go further, maybe you want to understand what's going on, maybe you want to add more components, make it into a real MIDI USB class compliant device, maybe you want to add LEDs, maybe you want to do more complex installation, right? Or maybe you just discovered that you really like this coding world, the making world, and this is just the beginning. So that's what I want you to do. If you liked this course, open my next email and read about the making music with Arduino. If you liked this course, you're going to love the making music with Arduino. That's the biggest and most complete course for music makers if you want to build MIDI controllers and tons of other things. But I'm going to send you an email tomorrow explaining everything you need to know about it. So go there and open it, right? You won't regret. I promise you, right? It's a really amazing course, and if you like this one, which is 3 classes, the other one is about 60 hours and hours of really great content, step by step, if you don't have any knowledge, and if you want to go further and have this skill in your pocket and be a maker and do tons of other things involving electronics, programming, and music. Okay, so my name is Gustavo Silveira and I hope to see you around. I hope to see you tomorrow. Okay, so Have a great day, great night, and see you!